Hello, this is Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I am your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. Welcome to the 30 Days of Intonation celebration. We have just completed 30 days of intonation all together. 30 different words, phrases, and expressions, and we've looked at so many different intonation patterns. I am so excited to have made it through this journey with you guys. I have to admit, when I committed to doing this, I wasn't sure it was going to be possible to record, edit, write about, and share 30 different videos, but we did it, and it actually wasn't quite as stressful as I expected it to be. It did take a lot of brain power, but I was happy to do it because it was so fun to see all of your comments and hear how it was going for you, answer some questions, and just really do this as part of a community. It's been really fun getting to know you guys through this challenge, and I hope it's not the end of our connection here on the English with Kim YouTube channel. So I basically would love to hear how you guys are doing. I see that there's some people introducing themselves, and I'm actually going to be able to show the chat. I figured out my technology problems. So it's so nice to see all of you guys. Oh, we have some people living in the US, Austria, Guatemala, Brazil. Let's see, keep introducing yourselves and I'll say hello to all of you. So basically, this is a celebration for us. It's really an opportunity for us to get to know each other, to chat a little bit on the live chat. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've talked about in the second half of the intonation challenge. And I'm also going to share ways you can continue to work on your intonation with me on your own and just some suggestions for where to go from here. But then at the end, we'll have plenty of opportunities to chat and answer questions. I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you for asking me, Mirgani, from Iraq, from Brazil. We've got people from all over Sudan. Very cool. And if I pronounce your names wrong, I am so sorry. If you were my student in an in-person class, I would really try to get your names correct. I hate pronouncing names wrong. Unfortunately, I'll probably pronounce it with an American accent. So thank you so much. And so I'm going to pay attention to the live chat as I go through this. The thing I do want to tell you is that I'm going to review. I'm a teacher, so I'm going to review what we talked about. Hello, Anna. So I'm going to review what we've talked about. I'll keep checking with the chat, and we will have an opportunity at the end of this live stream to chat and get to know each other a little better, because it is a celebration not just of intonation, but also of this community that's been developing. So I'm so excited to have you guys here on this live chat. The other thing to be very excited about is that we hit 1,000 subscribers. Yay! I was so excited to see this weekend that we hit 1,000 subscribers. I took a couple screenshots. Those of you who have been following me for a while, and some of you have you've noticed that my community kind of grew small slowly. I was always doing live lessons with just a few people. So it's so nice to see all of you here watching together, and I hope it continues to grow. There is something really nice about having a small community, and that's one of the reasons why I do talk fast. I do kind of try to attract people who are ready to improve their English at a more advanced level, because there's so many people teaching, there's so many students learning, and I just really want the type of people that like this type of style of teaching to be here. You can't please everybody, although I do try my best. And oh wow, we've got so many people from Brazil. I know Brazilians love YouTube. I've been watching the Brazilian YouTube English teachers. It's been interesting because they teach a lot in Portuguese. So I'm glad you guys are here learning from a native English speaker too, because it can help you both ways. But I just want to make sure you also hear natural sounding English from me. So thank you. Nice job. Yeah, it was really cool hitting 1,000 subscribers. It's thanks to you guys that you came here and you liked what I was doing. So I'm really, really excited. I think 1,000 is the most exciting milestone that you hit. Maybe 1 million after that, but it's just like you did it. You finally got started, right? Oh, we've got a couple of people from Argentina. That's really awesome. Baghdad, a couple of people from Iraq. This is cool. Okay, so I will definitely say hello to all of you guys as we get started, but because it is talking about intonation, if you have any questions about intonation, this specifically is your time to get the questions answered. Hello, we've got another English teacher watching here. And so we're going to talk specifically about intonation in this live chat. I am going to provide a link at the end if you want to ask me more questions. I'm going to use your questions to guide future videos. So If you have questions, I'm not going to necessarily answer them if they're not related to intonation, stress, using your voice, because that's the focus of this challenge. Wow, Bangladesh, Algeria, Sao Paulo. I need to practice my Portuguese. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about what's happened. The last time that we were here, we were talking about the first 15 days of intonation. And I just want to do a quick review because I am a teacher and we do review things about what we've talked about so far. So on day 16, we talked about my favorite expression, thank you so much. Those of you who've been around my channel for a while know that I do love appreciation. I say thank you a lot, and I encourage you to say that. So it's fun to play with the different intonation patterns. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So you guys are thanking me, and I'm thanking you right back. Thank you so much for being here. So thank you so much can be a really fun expression to use in different situations. Even though you might think, oh, I already know how to use thank you so much, I'm pretty sure you guys learned something specific about it in this challenge. On day 17, we learned the word what. And something funny I noticed in the challenge is that a lot of people didn't like the one word intonation videos as much as some of the phrases, but those are some of the most important ways you can use intonation. And I know we have another English teacher in here who can definitely say that. Funny. Yes, I don't have a Boston accent, and this is actually interesting because I was educated to not have one. I'm from New Hampshire originally, and some people in my school did have an accent and some didn't. And I think it really goes along with what kind of teachers you had and what you were studying. I also have lived in New York, California, Rhode Island, Argentina, Peru, and Chile. So I kind of lost any accent I had except on the word can't and a couple of other sounds you hear out of my mouth. I don't say wicked, which is very Bostonian. I used to, but when I moved to New York, I lost it because you lose things as you move because it's weird to have these really obvious markers of your heritage. Why do I feel that British intonation is easier than American? I don't know. I think because the Brits have more, I think Americans are more excited and emotional and expressive. I've talked about this with some of my teaching colleagues because I said, oh, do I talk fast because I'm an American? They're like, no, you just talk fast because that's your personality. So I don't know, but we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm getting distracted. Anyway, back to the intonation review. So day 17, we talked about the word what. And this one's funny because so many people go, what? What? Right? And so the more emotional you can say the word what, the better it sounds. I often hear non-native speakers when their English level is kind of intermediate or below, that's when they say what instead of saying what was that or something a little more polite. So that's why I really wanted to work on this one with you because when you say what, it can sound rude, especially with flat intonation. So it was a really good example of what I'm trying to show you through this challenge. Day 18, we talked about I'm so sorry because I think this is a really important expression to have if you do need to apologize, right? I'm so sorry. And then you can use it sarcastically. I'm so sorry, right? Sorry, it was so wonderful, right? People use it sarcastically, so it's fun to say. I also noticed when I've been rewatching these videos that I say right a lot as a thinking word. So that's why you hear that so much when I'm talking. It's a thinking word. Okay, day 19, as I was saying. So of course, as a teacher, building you towards better conversations in English, as I was saying, is a useful expression that I use a lot when I'm speaking. So I really wanted to give you something useful that you can use in conversations with that intonation, as I was saying, and continue on with the conversation. Because so often we learn these little expressions, but we don't learn how to say them. We kind of collect interesting expressions. There's so much information out there, but as I was saying, is incredibly useful in all situations, and it's a really good way to lead back into what you want to say. Day 20 was hello, and it seems funny, but the thing is, if you say hello, like I know Germans have hallo in their language, and there's other languages where you say hallo or something like that, hallo. So you really need to think about it when you say it in English. Sometimes those words like hello and okay, they sound different, and so I really wanted you to look at it more in depth. It seemed really silly to talk about hello, but I think you understand there's so many uses of this word. Day 21 was anyway. I use this word all the time. Someone very smartly observed in the comments that a lot of times you hear native speakers say anyways. It's an American thing. I do say it. I say it probably on video a lot when I do these live lessons. And anyways is not grammatically, well, I guess it's now accepted, but it's not formal. So anyway is the better one to practice. Anyway, there's so many different patterns that we use for anyway. And I use it a lot in conversation. It's a transition word, and that's the kind of language I really wanted you to build through this challenge, because there's a million things I could teach, but I want you to use language that's actually going to help move you forward. Okay, day 22, sorry to interrupt, right? Sorry to interrupt myself, and I'm going to look at the chat. I see it going. Hello. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Yes, it might be that the reason that you guys like British English, because you're taught that, and so many people have learned both American and British English. When I lived in Argentina and Chile, I'd kind of not argue, but a lot of times people are like, but this is correct. And I'm like, no, I'm American and this is correct in American English. So you do have that interference. Just to make you feel better, and something I am going to talk about a little bit is when, oh wow, another person from Mendoza. I love Mendoza. Love the wineries there, and I also just love the mountains. That was one of the first places I really understood how beautiful nature was in the mountains of the Andes. So I love Argentina. Selena, nice to see you. Luciano, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if I'm not acknowledging you, I will later. The difference between to and so. Teacher Vanessa just talked about this, Amir, on her website. So you might want to check it out, because she's got a good explanation. I saw it pop up on YouTube. Okay. Hello all of you. Okay. Back to what I was saying. So something that happened to me as I learned Spanish is that I learned Argentine Spanish. And those of you, because there's some Argentines watching, has a very particular accent and even a particular way of using grammar and using verb forms. So what happened is that I learned that I spoke with an Argentine accent with my American accent, and then I started sounding weird when I would talk to people who weren't Argentine in Spanish with my American accent and an Argentine accent. So then I moved to Peru, and they told me the things I'd learned in Argentina weren't right. And I traveled to Mexico, and people, like, I had to use usted, like the formal form instead of the common form. And it gets confusing. So my point is that those of you who have had trouble with different types of British English, American English, there's some good Australian English teachers on YouTube. You're going to mix all of these things, and that's okay. It really only matters when you're kind of always interacting at work with people from a certain culture, then you should try to use that. But if you're living in a country or traveling there, try to use their language. But people understand you. I understand British English. But the pronunciation, I really do think if you want to advance with pronunciation and intonation, you should totally decide on one and just go for it and just do your best with that. You can switch if somehow life leads you in another direction, but I think it's hard to study both pronunciations at once. People do it, but I kind of believe in maximizing your use of your time. Seba, yes, I have been to Argentina. I lived in Buenos Aires, and I have been almost to every province in Argentina. I traveled a lot in 2001 and 2002, and so it was a long time ago, but I've also been back. I really like the Northwest. I really like Buenos Aires. When am I coming to Brazil? I've only been to Iguazu Falls. Someday, Brazil. It's a dream. I've been trying to learn Portuguese for years, but haven't made it to Brazil. Kind of expensive, so it's hard to travel as an English teacher. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to what I'm talking about. You know I like chatting with you guys, so I interrupted myself. Sorry to interrupt this chat, but we'll come back to it at the end. And so that's why it's such a useful phrase. Sorry to interrupt. A lot of people struggle with sounding polite, sounding friendly, sounding good when they're speaking English. So I really want to encourage you to talk about how to be more polite, right? Politeness is a really big thing. If you've seen some of my older videos, I've talked a lot about politeness. I also have more resources on the EnglishWithKim.com website on politeness, so sorry to interrupt is just a perfect example. Sorry to interrupt. So it's a good one if you're in these chats and you want to get the attention of the teacher or anybody teaching you English on these live chats. Sorry to interrupt, and then ask a question. Okay, day 23, we talked about as you know. I realized that I use this a lot. just like as I was saying. So I actually wrote it down. I was in a session with one of my clients and I said, oh my gosh, I need to do a video on this one. Because as you know, refers back to something we said previously, but your intonation matters. Because if you say, as you know, it's really angry. But as you know, that's a little more friendly. Intonation really counts. Okay, day 24, I'd like to, but I really wanted to show an example of contrast because contrast is something that we didn't talk about so much with just these words and phrases, but you do hear it in English. Like, would you like coffee or tea? Are you in or are you out, right? So you hear people give these kind of options with their stress. So that's something that I would like to encourage you to work on. Just thinking about that contrast, so I'd like to, but, and that hesitation, that holding is a really important strategy to practice when you're using intonation for conversations. Day 25, well, I liked this one. Well, okay, well, let me tell you, right? There's so many different ways to use well, so I hope you practice those. Day 26, I was wondering, another really important politeness strategy is to use these embedded polite questions. I was wondering if you wanted to do this. I was wondering if you had time to answer this question. I was wondering, and you notice my tone shows that politeness. You want to show that softness in order to encourage the person to listen to you and listen to your request. And a lot of languages use these type of politeness strategies, but I notice so many English teachers and so many English curricula, because I've taught in a lot of places, don't teach you this because it's more advanced and it takes some knowledge, it takes some time, but using these strategies helps you connect with your listener because you're not demanding things. And it's very easy when your English level is still developing to sound like you're asking for things your way all the time. So I was wondering is a nice way to soften it. I was wondering if you like this review. Okay, day 27, you never know. I wanted to include some fun expressions. You never know, because that's actually why I started the challenge. A lot of these expressions, we learn them. There's so many teachers teaching you like 8 million expressions that you can use to sound more fluent. But unless you're actually learning the intonation, the correct context, and that kind of thing, it's really hard to start using them. So you never know is a perfect example. If you say you never know, like a robot, it doesn't have the same effect as you never know, where I'm sounding a little happier. So I hope that makes sense. That's why I included that one. Guess what is such a good one because it shows enthusiasm, interest. Guess what? But people also use it sarcastically. And I wanted to give you some clues through the intonation challenge on how to understand how people use sarcasm, because I don't really necessarily think it's easy to convey sarcasm as a non-native speaker, and I want you to be able to understand it. So you listen to the tone when somebody says something like guess what, but usually people are like guess what, and your answer is what, right? Kind of wanted to hear what they want to say. Day 29 was okay, right? There's so many tones there, so you really have to listen in order to understand what the person means. This one's important because in other languages, okay sounds different. So I really wanted to point that out to you guys as well. And day 30 was that's it. I, of course, have to be silly, and that's it. That's it, right? I'm sure a lot of you were asking, that's it? No more 30 days of intonation? Nope, that's it. That's it. That's all. That's it for now. So that's it for our review. I'm going to check in with the chat and see what you guys have been saying. Colombia, living in Costa Rica. Yes, I was there for the economy crashing, Seba, in Argentina, for those of you who are like, what are you talking about? Yep, that was an interesting time to be there. It was also 9/11 in the United States, so it was a very important year in my life. Yeah, Anna, thank you so much. Yes, I just appreciate you guys being here. So many of you have done all of the 30 days of the challenge, because that's kind of the challenge with a challenge, and especially something like this is quite valuable, and a lot of people don't. And so one of you who's been a frequent commenter from France commented that not everybody sees the value of something like this, because a lot of people learn English for entertainment, and it's okay if you're one of them, But the thing is that if you really want to improve, you have to do something. And so something like these challenges shows me who's really motivated. And even if some of you, I know you'll never be able to afford or never be able or don't even have the technology to buy some of the programs I offer, that's okay. I'm not expecting that. If you're a contributor to my community, that still is super valuable. So never feel bad like, oh, I can't pay for things. Like, that's just life sometimes. We all go through moments like that. It's different for every country. But being a community working together and taking advantage of these opportunities, that matters to me. And that's something that's important in American culture, is people seeing opportunities and using them. So all of you that are here or that have been going through the challenge, I appreciate you. It doesn't matter what happens going forward. I just want you to know that. Do I live in New York, Luciano? No, I used to live in New York, but I lived in New York for 3 years, but New York is very, very, very expensive and stressful. And I went to graduate school in California and just stopped living in New York. So that's my story. But that's why I teach professional languages. I worked in corporate America. I worked in the corporate district of New York. I worked in a corporate immigration law firm. I was very corporate. And then I switched and decided to go into the nonprofits and the teaching because that was really much more the type of person I am. Even though I helped a lot of people in New York, it was very stressful. So I still love New York. I miss New York. I might love to live there in the future, but unfortunately, teaching doesn't really combine with New York. Yes, the Colombian accent is beautiful. Will I continue with these tips on intonation? No. The intonation challenge is over. I will continue teaching intonation, and I'll talk about that later. And I will continue sharing videos on YouTube, but I have a couple of different ideas. I want to try some different things because intonation it's fun, but it's a lot of work to do 30-day videos. Thank you so much for your comments, you guys. Yeah. Oh yeah, my view behind me. So yes, so I've always had this window closed because in the winter there were no leaves on the trees and it was really boring. And but it's like, this is the best room with the best sound. You guys, some people noticed on my videos the sound isn't as good because the microphone has all the echo from a bigger room. This is a tiny little room. It's private, and so it's good for these live videos. So I'm just glad it looks good in the background. I'll probably do more videos out here because I like having the microphone by my face. Okay, so that's all that. I think I caught up on the chat. Is there anything else going on that you guys have questions about? Okay, so let's see. So let me talk a little bit about something else I prepared. I sent an email to those of you in my email community, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about finding motivation for these type of challenges, right? So the thing and this is why the best language teachers, whether they're native speakers or non-native speakers, are language learners. It doesn't matter which language you're learning, but that's why a lot of non-native English speakers are really great English teachers because they had to learn the language. They had to study it. They had to really understand it. As many of you know, or maybe don't know, I studied Spanish language and literature, and that was my degree in undergrad, in also comparative literature. So I've studied Spanish at a very high level, and just because I have an accent when I speak Spanish or it's not perfect all the time doesn't mean I don't have this understanding and love for the language. So, but the thing that was funny is that I had studied and studied and studied Spanish, right? And I moved to Argentina in 2001 to study abroad. When we say study abroad in the US, that's when you usually do an exchange semester or year. And I did a year in Argentina because I wanted to become fluent. And they said, well, if you go to Spain, there's a lot of Americans, you won't speak any Spanish. If you go to Argentina, there are fewer Americans there, especially then. Now there's more. And so you'll have more opportunities to practice. And I fell in love with the idea. I really wanted to live in a capital city. I'm from a small town. As you can see, like you can see the background, it's like rural area, kind of, not really. And I really wanted to live in a city. So I moved there, but I expected to just become fluent. And I don't know if any of you have felt this way. If you felt like this, please leave me a comment and let me know. Yes, I studied Spanish. Yes, thank you, Ilyas. Yeah, exactly. This trip to Argentina is kind of why I teach the way I teach. And that's why I think it gives valuable information. And that's why I share my story. I share it more in emails than in these live videos because I don't like just giving all my personal details to everyone. I like committed people. So if you're not on my email community, you should get there. There's lots of fun stories I tell about my students and myself. It's kind of more private community. And you can just sign up for that Sound More Natural course at soundmorenatural.com and you can get on the community. But anyway, so when I was in college, I had a professor or an instructor who was from, and I'm going to talk about professor and instructor in one of my future videos. I already recorded it. I just have to edit it. But she said she was from Cuba, and she was like, Kim, your accent is terrible. I'm from New Hampshire. There are not a lot of Spanish speakers here. There are now, but 20 years ago, there were not. She's like, your accent's terrible. You need to practice the Spanish vowels. And I was like, oh God, what do I do? I never learned how to speak Spanish. Like no one had ever taught me how to pronounce Spanish. And so she said, practice the vowels. And she said, put the vowels on your mirror. And every morning when you wake up or anytime you look in the mirror, which believe it or not, I don't look in the mirror very often. Some people do. She said, practice the vowels and, just go through the drill. Repeat them. It'll improve your accent. So I had those vowels on my mirror the entire year before I moved to Argentina. Probably practiced maybe 10 times. And I know you guys relate to this because this is a big problem with motivation when people are learning English. It's like a lot of people are like, I want to learn English. I want to become fluent. How can you help me? And my first question is always, what have you done so far? Because you can't just magically become fluent without doing something, right? Or without putting effort into it, without finding opportunities and taking them. And that's why I'm sharing this with you guys as part of the celebration, because you guys took an opportunity and you did something. And I value that a lot. So I know your struggle. I'm not just saying, oh, like you're not doing anything. No, like I didn't do anything either to improve my accent. I assumed it would just magically happen for me upon living in a country, like suddenly the accent would hit my brain and I wouldn't have to learn how to use my mouth. So it was really embarrassing to realize how little I spoke Spanish, despite the fact that I could read and write fluently in Spanish. I had trouble understanding at first, and, I just couldn't get the words out, and people would constantly point out my accent. So I know how it feels. It's not quite as bad in the US, depending on where you are, because there are so many immigrants here. But there, it was like, oh, American accent? It was kind of funny for me and also very stressful. And so I got embarrassed because I couldn't roll my R's. I pronounced all my consonants very American, my vowels. I didn't know the intonation. I'm only still now, 20 years of speaking Spanish, if not more, still learning how to use intonation the way it's used in Spanish, because I learned it from myself teaching intonation. So my point is that it's not that it's not possible for you. It's either that you haven't had the opportunity, you haven't learned, or you just need more practice. It is possible. So, and then of course, like when you live, like you learn different languages, it becomes different, right? Like British English or different accents. British English is different than Australian, is different than Irish, is different than South African, is different than New Zealand, different than US. In the US, there's lots of accents, and the same with Canada. So you have to kind of choose one and just go with it. So as I mentioned in my email yesterday, I couldn't roll my R's, and I'm not going to do it for you now because it's embarrassing, and I still can't do it all the time. But I realized I'm going to study this. Like, I want to learn this. It was on my bucket list. And those of you who have learned something about English, or you probably know the word bucket list. And a bucket list is kind of your goals before you die, before you kick the bucket, which is an idiom for dying. And so it was on my bucket list, learn how to roll your R's. So one day I can actually remember sitting at my computer in my bedroom, and I was like, I want to learn how to roll my R's. And I found a website, and the person said, okay, here's how you stretch the sound. Here's how you teach your tongue to make the sound. You repeat these tidiva, and then you'll eventually be able to do it. And it was true. It really didn't even I think maybe I spent like an hour that first day, and then I was able to do it more consistently. If I practiced now, I could do it more consistently. So my point of telling you this very long story, which is my style, is that you can learn how to produce these sounds, how to have an American accent, how to sound more natural, how to use these conversation skills. You can, but you have to put attention and effort into it. Collecting the information is not doing something with it. So I really wanted you to understand that through this challenge, that the only way any of you improved your intonation through this challenge was if you watched the video, you paused, you repeated, you paused, you repeated. That's how you make intonation happen. It is important to understand intonation, and you can learn a lot about what we're trying to express by understanding intonation. But if you want to produce intonation, you want to sound more natural, you have to practice. There's no other way. And I think a lot of people, myself included, want a magic solution, like boom, you're fluent, like boom, it's going to happen. And it's really just a matter of doing. So that was my biggest lesson through this challenge. Also for myself, I had to find time to make these videos for you guys. I had to find time to edit them, to send out the emails, to put it all together. And I wanted to see if I could do it, because I've seen other people do these types of challenges and I did it too. So I'm pretty proud of myself. And it's the thing that is most important about these type of challenges is that it can be simple and you make progress one day at a time. And that's what I wanted you to understand. You don't need a $1,000 course on how to improve your English. You need to commit to a plan of one day at a time, something small. It could even be like learning one phrase, the context, understanding it a day. And this movement forward, this energy forward, it gives you experience, more understanding, more knowledge about the language, and more confidence. So many people have been telling me they want to feel more confident in English. It does take kind of mental mindset things. I've shared a lot of videos recently in this year about mindset, because that's part of it. It's to believe that perfection's not important and that you can do it. And I do believe you can do it. I've seen it happen. I have taught students in California, Rhode Island, Boston, Peru, and Chile, and I've worked with people who are really motivated and people who are not motivated, and you can all do it. It's just the motivation from you that really counts. So that's my pep talk for today. So let's see what you guys have been saying. Okay, so yes, okay, so thank you guys for listening to that. Please leave me your comments. Yes, magic solutions for everything. Everybody wants these magic solutions. Yes, and some of you say like, well, I don't need to pay for something, because I can learn everything online. You absolutely can. Absolutely can. But you have to be motivated. And a lot of people work with a coach. Like me, I do English coaching, especially pronunciation coaching, or they work with, they work in a program, and it's also to work together, because as you saw, like the group, you guys can recognize the names of people who have been commenting, and you're going to be able to follow along with that. We like work together in order to find answers and solutions. And that's the benefit of programs. It's helpful. It's more quick to have guidance. But I've met fluent non-native English speakers. I talk about this a lot. There was this one guy from Brazil who learned English from playing games online and speaking into the microphone with his friends online. He was completely fluent, American accent. It was amazing. He was very smart, but you can do things if you really engage with it. So that's a good point. Oh, you're so sweet. Oh yeah, you guys are so nice. Yeah, I try to be as kind. I mean, I have to be myself. Like that's the whole point of this YouTube channel, right? Be yourself. I like to hear you speaking in Spanish. No, I have an accent. It's embarrassing. I don't want it on video. Okay, so let's see what else is saying. Bucket list. Yep, that was the word. And so Ricardo asked me about these live sessions. Am I going to keep on doing them? Yes. So I used to do a lot of these sessions. I'm making sure you guys are still there. So I used to do a lot of these live sessions in December and January when I switched. I used to do live sessions on Facebook, right? But Facebook never really showed the videos to people, so I stopped because YouTube is better for these live videos. And I used to do them every week. And I'm going to try to do them every week again. And actually what my plan is to do conversations with me, like conversations with Kim, where we practice one question and get answers, and you guys can ask related questions and ask yourselves these questions and answer the questions in the chat. So I'm going to try that out next week to see how that goes. I like doing live videos, but they get long, and it's not everybody watches an hour-long video, so it's not very good for the channel. And so I usually do live sessions with my private community because people are there and participating. But I'm planning on trying out, some live series here on YouTube once a week. And so those of you who have been asking, I will schedule them. I'm an organized person. I like to schedule them. And so as long as you go to the YouTube channel, it'll tell you, and it also advertises it to you. You can sign up for notifications. YouTube's awesome like that. Ilyas, an English teacher from South Korea who earns $500,000 a year. That is not what English teachers earn in the United States. I think people think like you're teaching online and you are wealthy, and that is not true. It's very, very hard to get started, and not to complain, but it is not, and it's not easy to do unless you've been doing it for 5-10 years. It takes time to earn money. And teaching English is, those of you who are teachers, I know I have a lot of English teachers in my community. Teaching is a profession that unfortunately isn't as valued as things like engineering, doctors, lawyers, and things like that. Not valued in terms of money, but hey, that's it. Oh, thank you. I always check you've been around a long time, Ricardo, though. You've been in my community I remember your name, and I appreciate you. Oh, another person from Mexico. It's okay if you're late. You can go back and watch. Let's see what's happening down here. Who was the best non-native English speaker you've ever met? I just mentioned him. Oh, Anna, you're so sweet. Hi, Hassan. I'm doing well. YouTube for the win. You guys are funny. Okay, so it's really your chance now to ask me some questions. I don't really have a lot. So I want to share what I did do for you guys. If you're really interested in continuing with your intonation, or you want to go deeper into it, I know a lot of people have commented, you speak fast, I don't understand. And so what I actually created, and I'm going to show it to you guys, let's see, is I actually, oops, that's the wrong page. Okay, so I actually created this PDF guidebook so I put together the entire program, the 30 Days of Intonation program, into downloadable videos, downloadable audio, and a PDF guidebook, which is, it's going to be 100 pages. I'm almost finished because I'm transcribing all of these different things. Oops, there's a couple of things, but I included all of the kind of guidance through the email, related examples, as you can see here, and a transcript of the entire lesson that we have gone through, so that you can read it, you can understand it, you can catch things that maybe you didn't quite understand the word. Sometimes I use vocabulary, and so I have transcribed myself all of the lessons, and so that you can read this. So this is basically, if you felt like you wanted more time with the intonation, you found it really helpful, you want to support the program, and you can now have access to this program as a downloadable, and any sort of future updates. So basically, I just wanted to show you what I've been working on behind the scenes, so that you can get all the information about intonation. So that's what's happening with that. If you are interested, you can go, I put the link in the website. This program's going to be available, this program's going to be available there for kind of indefinitely, right, this program. So it is only $30, right? 30 days, $30, and it includes all of this stuff, the future updates and improvements to the program, because I want to make it better. And there will be discounts on a future intonation programs. I've been meaning to make this intonation clinic. June is a very busy month, as you'll see here at English with Kim, so it'll probably be in July that this program is available. But if you support this program and you want to download it and get the MP3s, some of you asked for podcasts in the videos, I've created all of it for you, and all you have to do is click the button, enter your credit card or PayPal information, and this program is yours. You will get immediate access to all of the files. So the program will be available on YouTube. I'm not sure if I'll take it down in sometime in the future, but just so you know, if you want to take it with you, you want it to practice, you want the audio lessons, that is available for you. No obligation, but I have to tell you what's available. If you are really interested in intonation, while we're still talking about this, I wanted to show you Conversation Anatomy, which is my monthly membership program, which will be reopening tomorrow. It's opening every 3 months because it's really hard to constantly be trying to find people to join the program. And so this is where, if you really like these live lessons and you want more of them, each month we have lessons which you'll see here. We're going to talk about making small talk in June, and there's going to be brand new lengthy lessons. And like I said earlier, I create these longer lessons for the community inside my membership community because it is hard to get people to watch the full videos, and I really want committed people to get the information because it's quite valuable information. But if you like these live lessons, there are office hours where you can basically ask me anything, and there's also a practice and coaching session where you can work live on video with me and see other people get their questions answered. There's also the archive. Particularly, I love the active listening workshops because I think active listening is really important. And I'll share some details on YouTube as well. And there's also the Conversation Anatomy Starter Pack, which has recently re-recorded videos of what I consider the most essential conversation skills. And then there's also a community on Slack instead of Facebook because Facebook is distracting, but on Slack, so it's basically this type of live chat, but throughout the week. You can get questions answered, chat with me and the other people in the community. I personally love it, so I just wanted to let you know. And the reason it's related to intonation is that I always talk about the intonation with all of the conversation skills. So if you feel like you want to go further than just expressions, this is something to be interested in. So that's something, it'll be opening tomorrow, so you can check back at conversationanatomy.com and you can read all about it and what's inside it here, right? So it's all there. So I have to tell you that that's what's available. And like I said, there will be a program available in the summer about the intonation clinic because I want to give you a chance to practice with voice chat with me and get some actual feedback for me over voice chat. So there will be details coming. Okay, so that was my little spiel about that. I'm back. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat. If you have any questions for me. Yes, it is a huge value. Thank you so much. I know it's hard. A lot of times it's hard to explain that things are, it is a huge value. I appreciate that. Yes, a lot of work. Nice work. Thank you. Okay. So do you guys have any questions for me? That's all I got for today. Let's see. I'm going to go back to make sure the video, everybody's still good. Keep me posted. Okay, so this is your celebration, guys. You can ask more questions. I'm gonna wait because there's a little delay. It's funny with YouTube chat because it's like I'm ahead of you guys. You forgot all of your questions. It's okay. Are you late? Yes, you are late, but you can go back and watch it. You're perfectly on time for the question and answer session, for your asking your questions about intonation, talking about, I would love to hear. Why don't I ask you guys questions? Tell me how the challenge went for you. Were there words that you liked learning? Were there words you didn't like learning, or expressions? Were there things that you needed a better explanation? You're very welcome, Slavic. You know, I actually saw Slavic comment on another teacher's Facebook page about how teachers need to be able to earn a living. And I saw you comment that, and I appreciated you a lot. So I just appreciate people who support us and understand that, you know, it's fun to teach online. It really is, but it is a lot of work. And it seems like, oh, you just turn on your camera, but it's not quite as easy as we make it look, right? It takes some knowledge. I've been on the internet for 20 years. I've been making websites since the 1990s, right? So I'm a little more comfortable with technology. What kind of questions should I ask? Does it count as a question? It absolutely counts as a question. Okay, thank you, Alejandra. That's so sweet. You're very welcome. So you're a student Spanish. Do I teach Spanish on the channel? No. Oh, you're studying Spanish as well. I think you're from Italy, right, Luciano? Do I teach Spanish? No. People have always asked me, like, you should teach Spanish. You should teach Spanish. But I would rather be taught by a native speaker. I'd rather that I learned from non-native speakers my whole life, and I felt like it really made it hard for me to speak Spanish without an accent, to speak Spanish fluently, because my teachers weren't really that fluent, or they spoke with a Spanish from Spain accent. So that's why I never really wanted to teach Spanish. I can definitely help English speakers understand Spanish and that kind of thing, but it is hard. Okay, what kind of questions? Anybody else? Anybody else? Questions? Words that seem to sound the same, but they don't, like he's and his. Yeah. So I don't know if you've been through the course on sounding more natural. Oh, thank you. I saw a little flower bouquet. Words that so words that sound the same but don't. So basically, so something that's important to keep in mind, because we talked about this a little with the stress on certain words, with word stress, but basically you have to pay attention to your word stress, because if the vowel is stressed, this is the vowel sound that's the most clear, right? So this is really important, is that if you mispronounce a word, a lot of times it's because you didn't say the vowel sound correctly, or you just didn't make it long enough. And I'm going to have a video soon about word stress on one syllable words, where it can be really challenging. But yeah. So I'm trying to think of how to explain this. I'm going to talk about one syllable words in a video that I've recorded, but I have to edit. And so it'll kind of help you understand why words that are short are actually sometimes more challenging than words that are long, because you really want to distinguish between the two words. Words like he's and his, those words aren't usually pronounced really clearly. They're usually said really quickly. Like he's late, he's late, he's late. I almost can't even hear he's, right? He's late, he's late, he's late. It sounds like his late or is late or is late, right? That's what happens in reduced speech. And that is definitely something that it's more advanced concept with improving how you sound. But what I would encourage you to really do is, if you haven't already, the Sound More Natural free email course is at soundmorenatural.com, and I talk about word stress and I give some examples with numbers there. That will really help you understand the difference. But listen for the stress. And you've probably noticed in these videos, like I often go up and down, like where we say thank you so much, like you're putting stress on that. It's longer and it's louder and it's higher in pitch. And a lot of people forget to listen for stress because you're expecting the language to sound the way it does in your native language. And part of that is, if you listen to non-native speaking teachers often, and you choose to listen to somebody explaining to you in your language, they're not stressing things correctly because they also have an accent. I used to have a lot of Brazilian students in Boston, and some of them were planning on teaching English. And I said, make sure you pronounce the ed endings correctly, like worked. Because a lot of Brazilians say worked, and it's not correct. And your teachers are saying it, and then they're teaching it to you. So you're saying it, and it's just this kind of cycle that never ends. So that is something I want to encourage people to pay attention to, is you want to listen to where the rise and the fall happens in natural English. And that's really why intonation helps train your ear to hear what words are important, to hear what the tone is sharing. The stress syllables are longer and they help you understand. So I hope that makes that more clear. So I hope that answers your question, Alejandra. Okay, what about more free advanced intonation patterns courses? I have a video on 9 ways to use intonation in conversation, which is quite helpful. But unfortunately, I do have to make a living teaching, and so I can't offer everything for free. I actually have spent, believe it or not, I've spent 2 years of my life volunteering. I worked for free in Peru for a year, and so it's hard because people forget that just because the United States is a wealthy country, it doesn't mean Americans are all wealthy. And I know it's the same in other countries because I've met very wealthy people from countries that are technically not wealthy. So it's just how it goes. So anyway, how often do I use idioms in everyday life? All of the time, but not as often. Actually, and I'm gonna share, let you guys watch the chat as I answer these questions. I meant to do this. Let's see. Can we see the chat? There it is. Okay. All right. So that way you can see me and you can see my responses to the chat. Okay. How often do I use idioms in everyday life? I use idioms all the time, but I don't use them as often as, you see a lot of people like trying to teach you something online and they're like 8 idioms to talk about winter. And that's fine, but we don't often use them. Like, we don't use them throughout a conversation. Like, if you in one one paragraph you might use one idiom, but it's more likely to be an expression. But I do use them all the time. Like yesterday, I said something like to beat a dead horse, or and I was trying to think of another one to teach you guys today, because I almost used it in my email. So we use them a lot, but we don't use them, like, if you're trying to sound more natural by using a lot of idioms constantly, you actually sound unnatural. And sometimes we get emails from people who are using entirely emails filled with idioms, and that doesn't sound natural. Like one idiom for a specific situation. So I do think it helps you sound more natural, but I don't think it's the only way. So but we do use them, and I do think they're valuable to learn. Okay. Was Horacio, were you late? Yes, you were. Will you keep uploading the 30 days of intonation? Not right now. I will probably definitely talk about intonation more on my channel, but I want to keep it interesting. So I will be doing weekly videos on how to use conversation, like ask conversation questions and practice them. You can talk about intonation with them. For me, intonation isn't something you just teach and then you're done. And that's why pronunciation videos aren't always that helpful, is because you're just learning a sound in isolation, like how to make the TH sound, and you have to think about words like think, there, those, like that you would actually use in everyday conversation. So the same thing with intonation. Like, will we practice question intonation through my videos? Absolutely. Am I going to always make it just about intonation? No, it's part of the language and how to use it. So I hope that answers your question. But there will be, of course, there will be more videos. I don't think I'm going to go back to daily videos until I'm a YouTube superstar with 5 million subscribers and I can live off of the ads from YouTube. But I don't even have ads on my channel right now. Okay. Hello from Colombia. Hello. Let's see. Thank you so much, Abdul Rahman. What will be the next challenge? I don't know. I don't know what or when will be the next challenge. Alejandra. Oh, I'm so glad my explanation helped you. Anna, right now I'm in New England, right? So I'm outside Boston. I'm not in Boston right now because I'm still deciding where I want to live, to be perfectly honest. Because I was living in Chile and then Peru, and now I'm not really sure if I want to live in Boston. That's the truth. Hello from Nicaragua. Another Anna. Hello to Annas. Okay. Any other questions for me? Has anything else come in? Nope. Okay. So that was about it. I'm gonna wait. You guys can still ask questions. I know there's a number of you still watching. I can see that. Would love to see if you guys have questions. Yeah, there's a lot of you there. So I'm gonna still wait for questions. If you would like to help me out and answer some questions, like tell me what you want to learn, I created a little survey. So give me a moment and I'll get this survey for you guys while I wait for you to ask me some more questions. But I am going to, let me send this to you. Like I created a little survey to kind of learn more about what people want to learn, because I can come up with lots of ideas for teaching you guys. And I teach based on what I learned from my clients and from comments I receive, emails I receive. But it's always really helpful if you tell me, you tell me yourselves what you would like to learn, like what you're interested in learning. And so I'm going to put this in the chat box. If you want to fill out that survey after our live session, that would be really helpful for me, because I give you a chance to kind of tell me what you know, tell me your level, tell me what you're learning, tell me what you're interested in learning, and then at the end you can ask questions. And if you put your email address in the chat box at the end, you'll get a special invitation this coming month of June, a special invitation for a free something. So it's worth it to enter your information and get some personal attention. So that's that. What else was I going to say about sharing information? Yes. And so the other thing I just want to be clear, and this is not, so I have a couple of videos, and one of them is going to teach you guys some language that you shouldn't use when you're being polite with somebody. And I just want you to understand, anytime you learn something where somebody's telling you that you're not using something correct, it is not because you're bad, or I think, anything's negative about you or the way you're saying it. We're just trying to make you sound more natural. So that's something to keep in mind when I do use something you might have emailed that's wrong, or some question you phrased wrong. It's only to help you learn, because when you see actual errors and you make mistakes, it helps you learn how to not do that in the future. So I just want to make that clear. The other thing too is that a lot of people comment a lot of times on this channel, you speak so fast, and that's actually on purpose because I still have a clear voice. I'm still a teacher, so I have that teacher voice, but I really want to help people who are trying to have more advanced listening skills. And many of you have watched my video on, how to improve your speaking by listening to more high quality information. And I really do think it's great. You can learn a lot from people who speak more slowly or people who speak in your native language. But if you really want to understand native speech, you have to get used to the rhythm, which I do very naturally. I have a lot of expression through my intonation. Not every native speaker is as expressive as me. It's not a woman thing. It is a Kim thing. And so, but I just want you to understand that this is a more advanced English channel. Doesn't mean you're not welcome here if this is hard for you, but just use the CC button. So I just want you to understand that it's really for people who are pushing themselves to listen to things that are harder. And that's why it's going to be a smaller community. I'm not going to make everyone happy, and it's okay. That's life. Okay. Could I give some examples of I was wondering? Yes, I'll do that in just a question. Javier is asking, do I teach one-on-one? I do teach one-on-one. Primarily, I teach accent training right now because I work with more advanced learners. But I am really trying to focus on my accessible private community because it's really... it's a small group. It's not a very expensive program to join, as you'll see when it's available tomorrow. So it's a really good idea. If you want one-on-one time with me, if you join the membership program, my program is small, and because my community is small, and that is great because that means I can really help you guys, and I love doing that. So if you need one-on-one coaching, you can actually group coaching. I found in the programs I've taken, group coaching is actually the best because you learn from other people, and I love group classes. So that's why I'm focusing my energy there. But I do teach one-on-one. You can go to my website and click on work with me, and you can find information, englishwithkim.com. Okay, best exercise. Okay, wait, I'm going to answer that question. Okay, I'm going to answer that question too. Okay, so let me make sure we can still see. You guys have such great questions. Just making sure we're good. Making sure I'm in the middle of the screen. Okay. Could I give some examples of I was wondering? And do you mean like I was wondering with full questions? So Abdul Rahman, if you can clarify what exactly you want to know, I'll do my best to answer it. So basically, I was wondering is a polite question, right? So, and we have similar ones. I was wondering, I was thinking about, I wanted to know. There's actually a if you go to my channel and you go to Sound More Polite, I have the polite past expressions, and I talk about how to use the grammar there. But basically, we tend to follow I was wondering with if and then the conditional, right? I was wondering if you had time to answer my question. I was wondering if you could answer this question. I was wondering if you'd like to go with me to the movies, right? When you invite somebody to do something. The reason I was wondering is such a useful expression, and I focused on that one in the challenge, is that I was wondering helps make it not a demand, it helps put it as an option. And it sounds weird because why are we using the past? I was wondering. The idea is that it's like distant memory. I was wondering if you had time, right? It's like, I'm not wondering right now, even though the question is in the present. It's this like weird use of the grammar to push things into the past. And something I've talked about recently with one of my clients is that using grammar, like grammar has rules, but then there are the special uses. And this is the more advanced use of the past continuous with these particular phrases. So that's why I actually love teaching grammar. I don't teach it on my website because it's for a lot of reasons. I used to, and there's lots of old lessons on my website. But grammar, like as you get more advanced, you have to use grammar in a more advanced way because you evolve. There's deeper meanings, deeper uses. So I was wondering if you had time to talk. I was wondering if this were a good time to speak with you. I was wondering if you'd like to get dinner tonight. I was thinking of buying a new car, right? So all of these present it as a past idea, so there's no pressure. There's no pressure with time. So I hope that makes more sense. Let me know if that helped you. Best exercises for my listening. Personally, right now, my number one recommendation for listening is podcasts because I have noticed I've been listening to myself through just the audio recordings without watching the face, and you really have to focus on your listening. And you can watch you can listen to podcasts on any topic about anything. So if you want to learn, I met with Kevin of Feel Good English, who does a podcast where he talks about personal development books. I met with him last week and we talked about podcasts as a way to help you improve your listening. And it's really interesting because you learn a lot through just not having the distraction of your face or reading and just really having to listen and really having to pay attention. You start following the rhythm. Not every podcaster is a professional. A lot of people become more professional. Since I've started doing videos, I've become more clear with speaking too. I used to do a podcast as well. I might do one in the future. But podcasts are a really good way to improve your listening because you're not being distracted by the face or what's going on or what the background looks like or, having everything come across the subtitles on the screen. So I hope that makes sense. So I hope that helps you, Oscar. Ilyas, when you listen to an English teacher from the US, you understand pretty good, but when you watch American TV, it's a bit difficult for me to understand it. This is a big challenge as well because for example, like I said, I have no accent. One of you asked me about, oh, you don't have a Boston accent. Like, what's that about? Right? I don't have an accent and I'm an English teacher. And so I used to teach beginners. I used to teach people who had practically zero English level. So I'm used to trying to be a little more clear and slowing down. And especially English teachers who are targeting intermediate learners, they speak more slowly because that really helps people. So that's why English teachers are hard to understand. A lot of English teachers don't have an accent, but you will find that they do if you go to in-person English classes. Like I've worked with English teachers who have Maine accents. I've heard people with Texas accents, right? There are different accents. And on TV, it's the same thing. You might hear the New York accent. Like listen to politicians talk. They have all their regional accents. Not everybody has lost their accent like me. And that's why it can be hard to understand people on TV. You watch, a crime drama from Chicago. They have Chicago accents. There are a lot of regional accents. Urban populations, like people who live in the city, have city accents. There's this diction, this rhythm to the speech that's a little bit different. So that's why it is difficult to understand that. And that's why, like, even though, of course, I want you guys watching my channel, I also want you watching other things and listening to other things and getting used to other accents. I help you with the rhythm because if you get used to my rhythm, you'll hear it when other people who are less expressive use it. But it's important to not just be studying English. Okay, Lou, yes, you are late, but you still have time for your questions. No problem. And I'm going to be here. I scheduled a little more than an hour, so we have some more time. Anna is completely correct. Realize that your mistakes don't matter. Don't worry. Continue practicing. It's funny because I have a complicated relationship with mistakes because I did start out with my website fixing grammar mistakes. And I do think fixing mistakes is important once you're nearly fluent, like once you're advanced and nearly fluent, because you really want to make sure that thinking out loud, you really want to make sure that you're not distracting from your message. And if you're really making a mistake that's unusual, like the ed ending, the end of past tense verbs, or you're confusing the ing and the ed all the time, and you're more fluent in English, it's really distracting because you're fluent and then you're making these really kind of basic mistakes. But that's when it matters to fix your mistakes. For most people, I focus on fluency first, accuracy later. You do develop them in tandem at the same time, which I talk about on one of my other videos, but you have to have an awareness of your mistakes and not just like be speaking English terribly and thinking you're fluent, right? But you can't get fluent without fixing those mistakes. But the thing is, people make mistakes. If you notice, anytime I do these long videos, I make mistakes. I've made mistakes in the 30 days of intonation videos. I just keep going, like, unless I can edit it out. Sometimes I can't edit it out and it stays there. So mistakes are normal. Mistakes are part of talking. I have a couple of interviews where we talk about making mistakes with some of the other English teachers I've talked to. So watch those videos and feel more confident. Mistakes are not the problem. What I do know from experience, like I told you at the beginning and I'm mentioning now, is that trying to be perfect when speaking will reduce how fluent you become, because I worried about perfection when I was learning Spanish because I was young. I was 20. I was like, oh my God, what do people think of me? I was much more interested in people's opinions of me than I am now. And And so, and even with making videos, right? Like, when I first started, these videos weren't as nice looking. Like now I have a light. So, you could just have to start with what you have and then you improve as you go. But if you worry about perfection, which so many intelligent people worry about, and I know you guys are intelligent because you're interested in these more advanced concepts, intelligent people focus too much on perfection, so they let people who don't care about perfection just sound fluent, right? And just keep talking and just achieve this fluency, and where they're like, oh my god, I made a mistake, like, and then you don't become fluent. And so one of the things I do as a coach, and the reason I no longer really call myself a teacher and I say I'm a coach, is that I really want to help you speak without worrying about being perfect. So you just keep going, keep going. That's one of the reasons conversations with me, we just keep going, we keep going, because then you're not worried about your mistakes. If you're having a flowing conversation, you don't care about your mistakes. It's just conversation is going. And that's why talking to an American who's very excited is much easier than talking to a very refined Brit sometimes, because they speak more slowly, and so then you can hear the mistakes. But I'm just making a joke about that. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Okay, good. I'm glad I answered all your questions. Yes, and Kev there, when you first heard your voice, I thought you were from California. I used to live in California. I don't have a Californian accent, and I don't say important, which is the way Californians say it. I used to teach in California, and the Californians have a very clear accent. So maybe that's why I have a clear accent. I don't know. Luciano, when I started to watch your class, your listening is getting better. That's the goal. And now we have somebody else saying hello. Okay. Any final questions? Countdown. You're welcome to ask questions. You can ask me pretty much anything. It's a celebration. We're excited. See if people are still watching. Are we still watching? Is anyone's? Yeah, you guys are still here. Ask questions. Go for it. It's all you. This is your celebration. As much as I like to talk to myself, I don't like to talk to myself. That's something that's funny about teaching live on YouTube is is talking into the camera, right? Instead of looking down at the screen, or even when you interview people. And it can be funny recording videos with yourself. But like I said, I've been doing this for about a year, doing the videos. In the first video, I was so nervous, but it was fun. It took me 8 hours to make my first video, which was about 5 minutes long. It included a lot of voiceover of the screen. And since then, I've gotten a lot better at doing this. The thing I don't like about teaching on these live videos is when it's not a conversation. So now that you guys are here, I love it because I get to have a conversation. But the best teachers involve you in the conversation. So if I wanted to make this a really good lesson, I would have had more questions for you guys. I appreciate the fact that you smile all the time. Yeah, I'm a pretty happy person now. Yes, you're very welcome. I appreciate that you appreciate me. Yes, we're still here. Okay. But yeah, so it's kind of awkward to constantly be looking into the camera and to listen to yourself talk and that kind of thing. So yeah, it could be awkward, but it's fun, whatever. And you can tell like the YouTube teachers who have been doing this for 5 or more years, they're so much more comfortable. And then there's also people who really like to look at themselves. Can I tell you guys the thing I'm so excited about this 30-day challenge being over is I don't have to look at myself every day and like look at these videos and like watch the videos and listen to them and write about them. It's like editing the videos of yourself. Like now I know why, people hire people to do video editing. It's like, I'm like, I don't want to look at myself anymore. Not that I don't like how I look. It's just like, feels very egotistical and like very self-serving. But like my goal is, and that's even why at first when I did videos on this channel, I didn't put my face on the thumbnails, but people are more likely to click if they trust you. So, and I know you guys feel that way because you comment on like, thanks for smiling. It's nice seeing your face every day, So that's kind of a funny thing about these videos. Are you guys just so captivated by my speaking to myself? Do you have any more questions? I saw some of you have been filling out the survey. I greatly appreciate that. You can ask your questions there. I'm going to pop that link in again in case you guys missed it. And then I'm going to give you the links while we're sharing. The links if you want to purchase the full program with the guidebook, which is just about complete. I'm going to send you that little link there. So if you want to do that, I understand it's not for everybody, but those of you that are interested in it, it's there for you as well. Oh, it says English with Kim. There's that link. And also, if you are interested in working with me in a small group of people in Conversation Anatomy, that link is there. It will go live tomorrow with the monthly sign up. It's only going to be open for a week and then it'll close for 3 months. So if it's interesting to you, now is the time to join, because I can't promote it every 3 months. It's a lot of work with my coaching and working with people and trying to produce content for you guys for free, because I will not stop doing that. But it's a good way to get, to work with me, to support the channel, and to be able to, get more help, because I love chatting with people on Slack. Okay, what else do people say? Oh, can one learn English by watching and listening to movies? You can. You can learn English. Let me go back to the to sharing that screen so we can have the conversation at the same time. Okay. Oops, that's not the right one. There we go. Okay. I know how that feels. Exactly. Thank you. Let's see. We're still here. Hello. Hello. Can you learn English by watching and listening to movies? You can. But the thing and this is, I don't know if you guys have seen my interview with my friend Cara from Leo Listening, who's a listening teaching expert. She talks about TED Talks and how TED Talks are not her favorite way to encourage people to practice their listening. And I agree with that, because I love TED Talks, and I actually think TED Talks are great for practicing presentation skills. But if you notice, if you watch TED Talks, diplomatic speeches and that kind of thing, people are, they're more deliberate about the way they speak. They slow down. I have a great video. Actually, the lesson on my website is amazing, and it's one of my favorites, on how to use your voice and breath to sound more professional. You can find that video and the links there on my website as well. But you use your voice more deliberately when you're being professional, you're speaking. So with movies, depending on the movie, I mean, you can watch a movie like, what is it, like The Town? It's all Bostonian accents, and they're kind of people from the city, and they are just kind of talking back and forth. You can hear the accent, but they're still actors. So they don't make mistakes as often. They don't, they're actors, but they might be more clear. And if you but personally, improving your listening okay, I just mentioned you. But like, if you're by improving your listening through watching movies, it's kind of like, if you enjoy it and it's helping you, go for it. That's fine. But like, if you really, really want to improve, you need to listen to all kinds of things, right? Speaking videos, watch teachers, listen to podcasts, watch videos. Like, the more variety you can get in your listening, the better it's going to be for you. The other thing so many people don't think about doing that is really important to do is to also be sure to listen to non-native speakers speaking English, right? Because if you're moving to the US or the UK or Australia, there are non-native speakers there, and you have to get used to hearing English as a global language. If you're working in a multinational company, or you might be, or you're studying in a university, you're going to need to hear those accents too. And I talk about a lot how I've had Colombian students who can't understand Korean students. And like, it's usually the people who think, oh, English only sounds like American accent or Korean accent in English, but it's not true. You have to learn people from other regions who have different types of accents based on their native language. So I hope that helps. Okay, I have a question for you. Okay? Do you guys say I'm fine when asked how are you? Yeah. Sometimes. I mean, there's lots of different answers. I mean, it just depends on the person. Like, if I go into a store and somebody's like, how are you? I actually usually say, I'm fine, how are you? And they don't answer, because it's just like it's a transaction. If you've seen my video on transactional language and interactional language, I talk about that. So if somebody really wants to know, how are you doing? Like, how are you? How are you feeling? Then you're going to get more information about that, right? You can answer more than I'm fine. So I'm fine is fine, but there's better too. Fidel, you have a power of a very relaxed person when speaking. Being relaxed plays a very important role. It's because I'm not nervous anymore. I used to be nervous in front of these live videos, and it's fun because you guys are fun. I like it. You asked a question. I answered your question. Thank you so much on the 1K subscribers. Yes, 1 million, it's in the sights now. It's possible someday. So we'll see. Thank you so much. And then I mentioned you. I know, it's funny. Puerto Rico, hello. You learned English by watching Worldwide Wrestling. Would I appreciate it? It is a good way to hear people. That's more natural, because it's like, I mean, you're learning very specifically. And that's why I said more variety. You're learning very specific language on like language about wrestling. So if that's useful in your daily life to talk about, that's useful language. But if you're not talking about it, then it could be a little challenging. Okay. All right. So are there any final questions? I just like chilling here. I'll go back to the video. All right. Any final questions? So I've shared with you the links. I would love if you want to contribute by filling out the form that I put the Google link there that gives you a chance to ask your questions and tell me what most interests you. And you can also join my email community. Don't forget, for those of you who don't know about word stress yet, you go to Sound More Natural. Let me type it in with the little sound more natural. You can probably hear the typing.com. That is a link to the free email course. If you haven't gotten that already, it really guides you through it, kind of like the Intonation Challenge. Those of you who got the emails from the Intonation Challenge got the full value into your email box. What else? Any other questions? I'm just stalling. It's because I scheduled extra time because I thought you guys would have a lot of questions about intonation, but if you don't, that's cool. I hope that you really enjoyed this challenge as much as I did enjoy sharing it with you. Like I said, you can get the full program, get the downloadable guidebook, and then you have it all the time. You can also join Conversation Anatomy in order to learn intonation with particular conversation skills and get more in-depth feedback from me by chatting through Slack. And there will also be a couple of different things happening this month. You'll see I'm participating in the English Power Pack with a number of other teachers. That will be at the beginning of July, and it'll give you an opportunity to get the Conversation Anatomy Starter Pack and a bunch of other programs from other teachers who are very talented for a discount. So that's something to look forward to as well. There's a lot of cool stuff happening. And next week, I'm going to do the live lesson on conversations with me, and we'll kind of work through conversation questions one at a time. That's my goal, is to kind of keep these lessons shorter, just like they were in the challenge, so that you learn something really in depth and then move forward. There's a million things I can teach you, and I can answer your questions as much as possible, but yeah, the guidebook is very helpful. Thank you. It's got all the transcripts and all the details there. So if there are no further questions, that's it for today. Thank you so much for supporting my channel as we get started here. I really have enjoyed getting to know you guys through the challenge. I really want to encourage you to keep participating, keep commenting, keep sending me messages. Even if I can't always respond to them in depth, I really appreciate them and I take them into consideration, and you may see a video in the future with your answer in it. So pay attention. I really believe in the power of community. I really believe in working together, and I really want to, that's why I love YouTube, and that's why YouTube I've chosen as opposed to Facebook or Instagram, is because I really do have a chance to get to talk to you guys, and it's really fun. I will come on with more live videos. I do like doing them once a week, when I can, because it's, life is busy sometimes. I've got a life too, just like you guys. I've got work and responsibilities, but I do the best I can. What else? That's it. So once again, I'm Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I'm your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. Thank you so much for being part of the English with Kim community, for participating in the 30 Days of Intonation Challenge. I hope you learned a lot. I look forward to hearing from you if you're learning this down the line, and I look forward to sharing more tips with you soon. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.